Greetings YouTube, I'm Evening, and I'm here to talk about games you've probably never heard about. Today, I want to ask and answer one simple question. Should you play Champions of Norrath? Let's begin with what even is Champions of Norrath? Developed in 2004 exclusively for the PlayStation 2, Champions of Norrath is an ARPG made by Snowblind Studios. Before Champions, the studio made Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. Together with the game, they made an engine which became the backbone for majority of their games, including Champion, and even some other studios used it for games like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2 and Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. The studio released a sequel to Champions a year later, and they also made Lord of the Rings, War in the North, before merging into Monolith Studio. That's all about the people behind the game. Now let's talk about something not fun. Problems. Here's the big problem with the game that I faced and just couldn't find a way to fix. Slowdowns. The game loves to slow down, particularly in areas with water, lava, a lot of fire, or torches. Which doesn't seem like that big of a problem, except that almost all of Act 2 features maps made out of that. I tried different renderers, settings, nothing really helped. There are options that are made specifically for the Champions of Norrath engine games in the advanced options of the PC X62 emulator, but for me, it just turned off half the screen and I couldn't find a way to fix it. For some, these settings fix most frame rate issues, so take my complaints about slowdowns with a grain of salt, as it might not happen to you. Once again, as bad as it might sound, you get used to the slowdowns. The game itself doesn't require fast reflexes either, so it's not the worst, and it ain't that bad in most areas, except the lava lake. It's so bad in the lava lake. Let's have a little glance at the premise before moving on to the interesting parts. The world of Everquest is overrun by the nasty and ferocious team-up of goblins and orcs. You and up to 3 of your friends are tasked with a mission. Help kill them. It's a very simple goal, but it tells you everything you need to know. Let's address the thing you see on your screen. My shader. I discovered these shaders called kyubus shaders, that's how you pronounce that not only do the whole scan lines thing, but also add custom LUTs and presets, and good lord do they look amazing. I have fallen in love with these shaders. And if you like what you see, you should check it out too. It's beautiful, not the game itself. It has aged wonderfully in terms of presentation, even though it's going for a realistic style, which tends to age the worst over time. The camera angle that the game is mainly played at completely fixes this problem. Most of the textures that would look dated are small and far away. As such, your brain does all the hard work in making them look good. The models, on the other hand, are all beautiful. It also has this exaggerated fantasy style with the characters, where the ladies have giant knockers and men are very, very muscular, which helps as it takes a step away from realism. It is something that is really left to your own taste though. The vampire lady was a bit too much for me personally. Voice acting is an interesting knot to untangle. First things first, the acting in cutscenes is amazing. It's just solid great work that I don't really have anything bad to say about. NPC dialogue, on the other hand, has problems. Specifically one simple thing, which is just kinda weird. The text box moves so much faster than anything the character says. There's even like a good 5-second pause after you interact with someone before they begin talking. As such, what ends up happening is, the NPC has said the 4th word in the paragraph, while in front of you, the whole text is already written out and waiting. This might not bother others, but my brain just makes me read the rest of the text and just skip the narration. It's just a little weird thing that bothered me personally. Let's talk the big talk now. Gameplay. The only reason you'd ever pick up this gem. Imagine the gameplay of Diablo or Path of Exile. Now, let's slow it down. Let's simplify the loot system and the skill tree and cut down the number of enemies. It might not sound very exciting, but trust me, this gameplay is great. The simpler nature of the gameplay makes it such a cozy and relaxing experience, perfect comfort game for you to turn your brain off, as you don't even need to worry about character skill trees that require a PhD to understand, or the need to grind some complex upgrade materials for your perfect character build. The gameplay loop is quite simple. You kill enemies, fill up on loot, equip something with a bigger number, sell the rest. Repeat until you reach the end. It's a well-known, fun and addictive loop, but the game does have one big problem in this loop. The only information you get on the item that has fallen out of an enemy pocket is the name and the color, which is just not enough, as what ends up happening is you pick up everything you see till you can't carry no more. And now, a new item is on the ground. You can't know if it's better than what you have, you don't know its price. So you play this little game of going to the side, throwing away some of the heavier items you have, going back to pick up the new loot, you see that it's actually worse and not as valuable, so you throw it out and then go back to pick up the loot you dropped. And this happens all the time, mostly because the amount of items you can hold isn't that big, specifically because your health and mana potions are quite heavy. It's not a major problem, but over time it does get infuriating to a point where I just ended up skipping majority of the loot I knew I couldn't use, even without looking at the monetary value it had. Another part that doesn't benefit this looting loop is how you sell the items. Every act has a shop where you sell everything. The teleport scroll you hold takes you straight to the shop. Great, but you can't just go back to where you were. You can only teleport to a specific point using the teleport. What this means is that a lot of times going to sell your items means you'll have to backtrack quite a lot to where you were before. It wouldn't be that bad if not for the movement speed. You just kind of move a little slow. During actual gameplay, the speed is perfect, as it also acts as a perfect skill you need to learn when it comes to dodging projectiles, since the slow speed means you have to be aware of the projectiles and dodge in time. The problem is when you are just walking back with nothing to do but step over corpses. It gets a little bland, but it does kind of give you the perfect opportunity to listen to some cool podcasts. Another infuriating thing was my luck. Game is not stingy with unique item drops. It didn't take me long to get my first yellow text item. It was exciting. Here's the catch. It took me till good ways into Act 2 to finally get a unique weapon I could use. I just kept getting hammers and magic staffs, which I was not built for. There was a time where I got like 8 hammers in a row. Now, wanna hear the best part? I got this cool sword that did both ice and fire damage. I was so excited. Finally, a weapon that can replace my first bought sword. Then I proceeded to walk into lava, instantly die, and after loading back in, the sword didn't drop again. So yeah, the game hates me, which is even more evident by the fact that all my footage past Act 2 got corrupted. Please, champions of Norrath, I really like you. Why must you abuse me? Speaking of abuse, let's dive into how we fight all the enemies. You have an attack button, which makes you swing your melee weapon. This can also make you shoot your range weapon. Your weapons can range from two-handed big halberds to little daggers and axes. The ranged ones can go from your simple bows to throwing spears, and some of the weapons are even tied to specific classes, encouraging replayability. The other two face buttons are used for your spells. At once, you can only have 2 spells equipped, but with the D-pad, you can change your spells with ease. Your triggers are for using the mana potion or the health potion. Left bumper is used to switch between your melee weapon or your range, and the right bumper is to block if you have your shield equipped. Lastly is the camera. Pulling right stick back makes the camera give you an overhead view. Pushing the stick in leaves the camera at the same distance, just now at a lower angle. And one more push in makes the camera get in all close and cozy. That is all for the controls. They are simple, yet they do their job adequately. And all the easy spell switching and weapon switching leads to quite exciting combat encounters. Now let's talk ghouls and goblins. The enemies are quite varied, in both completely different species of combatants, but also in the roles the enemies have. Let's take the first enemy for example. You have your regular dudes that just rush you. Then you have the same melee dudes, but now they have a shield, meaning ranged attacks don't work, unless you can trick the enemy to turn around. Afterwards we got archers, also pretty self-explanatory. Lastly we got mages. They are also ranged enemies, but the thing they do is this annoying little spell where they can just revive the dead. Even worse, when there are multiple mages in different corners of a room that keep reviving each other as you walk over to kill the next one. Quite quickly, you learn that they are your priority. As such, every combat encounter changes depending on who you are fighting, which is just brilliant enemy design. We also got spiders, vampires, lava golems, and many more monsters that tend to shake up how you approach combat. We also got bosses who can also vary from being stronger basic enemies to just shield up. Other than the main quest that can be found in every act, there are also some mini dungeons that you can tackle for extra loot and experience. Other than all that, there are also 3 difficulties that are to be looked at as New Game Plus, since the game itself even recommends using higher level characters for those. Of course, if you want some challenge, you can just go into a harder difficulty with a level 1 character. Nothing's stopping you. Good luck, soldier. Now let's talk difficulty. Personally, the game was a little harder to start until I bought a weapon from the shop that I injected with lightning, and then just breezed through to like middle of Act 2, at which point I finally got my unique weapon. After the beginning of the game, more or less, the difficulty stabilizes and it just remains flowing evenly more or less. Of course, there are some bosses that just really spike up the difficulty, but other than that, it's a very nice experience. Your health potions are very strong, so as long as you take care to always have plenty and heal enough, it's kinda hard to die. The game takes place in the world of Everquest, something I wasn't familiar with prior to it. For the most part, the story exists to give context to the different areas you explore. Oh, a cave filled with spiders. Why would one go there? Oh, there's an ancient scroll hidden there that we need. Okay. It isn't really a story that you will remember a week after playing, but that is a-okay, as it's clear that this isn't what the game is focusing on. It gives you glimpses of this big, expansive world of EverQuest. So if you feel enamored by the lore, you can dive deep into other works set inside this universe. It works perfectly as a little taste of this interesting fantasy world. I still have to mention and praise a good part of the writing, which was the characters. Mainly the villains. They are fun and over the top, which is exactly what you want for villains in a game like this. You just want to go and crush them. It's really all you need from a game, but the main goal is to get stronger and kill everyone you see. So, to answer the question, should you play Champions of Norrath? It is a fantastic ARPG on the PlayStation 2. It might not be over the top the same way Path of Exile or Diablo gets, but the slower combat, lesser enemy amounts, and a simpler character building makes it a very comfortable and unique experience. While it may not boast a memorable story, it does feature very fun gameplay that is even better if you have friends to enjoy it with. The Dark Alliance games were brought to PC a couple years back, so maybe both it and its sequel game could appear at some point with a PC port, which would be fantastic, as I'd love to replay the game again, but without any of the PlayStation 2 issues. Thanks for watching, greatly appreciate it. Check out my other Should You Play videos, or check out my other channel, Evening Man, for longer, more in-depth videos on games you probably never heard about. If you like what you see, subscribe or drop a like. See you next time. I've been Evening, and this has been Champions of Norrath.